It's Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for joining us. Well, preparing for the upcoming holidays, how to avoid holiday debt. But first, the scammers are hard at work. They want your money. How to protect yourself. We'll get to that and more after these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
All right, welcome back. Well, we're going to get into scams and how significant they are. The scammers have become ingenious in getting your money. Joining us is one of the experts on how to avoid being scammed. It's Brian Roach. He's the anchor consumer investigator at WGAL News 8. Brian, welcome back.
Glad to be here, as always.
All right, well, let's first of all start with mystery packages, and you call this holiday mystery packages. Take it.
Well, these mystery packages, they really are a mystery to us right now. This started maybe about 2 months ago. People started reporting to us that they were getting packages sent to their homes all throughout South Central Pennsylvania and throughout the state, as a matter of fact. And they didn't order them, but they're coming to their house in their name. One example is a woman who got an iPhone that was delivered to her house in her name. She never asked for it, but about 10 minutes after the package arrived, someone showed up at her door saying that she received his package, which happened to be an expensive iPhone, by the way.
Right.
So what we suspect at this point, and we don't know really what's going on, is criminals are ordering expensive items like iPhones, iPads, computers, things like that, and having them sent to your home. And of course, they can sit there on their phone and watch the delivery.
Right.
They can see that it's delivered, and we suspect that they're going up to the doors and taking these expensive packages. I do know that several police departments in Pennsylvania have issued warnings about this because these criminals are getting caught on doorbell cameras. And they need to smarten up and realize, they're going to be on camera for the most part.
Yeah.
We've also looked into a few other stories where people are receiving the most bizarre packages, and one in particular that we're looking into right now. A woman for about 3 or 4 weeks straight was receiving snail mucin. You probably have no idea what that is, and I had no idea what it was at the time. Apparently, it's some type of beauty or cosmetic product made from snail secretions.
Oh, my gosh.
And they spread it on their face. But this woman kept getting these packages.
So what do you do when you get them?
She eventually got them stopped through the post office and through USPS, but we don't know what the motivation is here.
Yeah.
These packages were coming to her address in the names of all kind of different people. They were all from all over the country: Texas, California, Kansas, Florida. And we never could, and we're still trying to, but we never could figure out exactly what the purpose is. We suspect that what they're doing is mailing out these packages to make it appear that their sales of these bizarre products, again, snail mucin, to make it appear that their sales have elevated. So a lot of people are reporting this to us. We're still not entirely sure what the motivation is for the scammers.
Well, somewhat related is something that you refer to as a shipping text scan, and it's related.
It's somewhat related. Look, this year, it's estimated that 2/3 of Americans are going to order something online. Did you order something online this year?
My wife does, yes.
Okay, so 2/3 of Americans, that's like 220, 240 million people, will order something online. And that does not get past the scammers. So they have continued to push out these text messages that you get on your phone, and I bet you probably have gotten one saying, there's been a problem with your package, there's a problem with the address, please click on this link and respond. And they're going to ask you for all kind of information. Personal information, credit card information, and these text messages claim to be coming from all of the shippers: Amazon, FedEx, UPS, the United States Postal Service. But the important thing is, do not click on those links, because they know, again, that we are almost all of us are waiting for a package of some sort. So the best advice here to folks is, when you order something online, you're almost immediately going to get the tracking information. Keep that tracking information. A lot of people don't do that, Terry. They just throw that email aside.
Right,
you need to keep that tracking information, and keep one other thing in mind. When you get these text messages, they're not addressed to you by your name. For example, when I order something from Amazon and I get a message from them, first of all, it's an email, and it's addressed to my full name, Dear Brian Roach. A lot of these scam texts, they're not addressed to you as an individual. They don't know your name. They're phishing.
But they are getting ingenious in terms of the way they do this. I mean, it's unbelievable how many there are who are doing it and how it's hard to stop them.
And timing is really important right now. You know, as you and I sit here now, Christmas is a little under 2 months away.
Yeah.
And you and I may not even be thinking about shopping or getting ready for Christmas right now, but I guarantee you, the scammers are out there. They already have their plans in place to take advantage of the holiday season. Every year around the holidays, their scams ramp up.
All right, we're going to run to a break. When I come back, we're going to do something that many of us are on Facebook. Facebook account hacks. We'll get to that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Well, I'm on Facebook, and I think probably many of you are on Facebook, and there are Facebook account hacks. What's that all about?
There are billions of people on Facebook around. Billions,
right.
This has become an epidemic. People are having their accounts hacked left and right, and there's virtually nothing you can do about it. Scammers are taking over people's accounts. They're changing the passwords, and then they're posing as that person to go after all of their friends, sending out messages about fake grants, gifts that are available, prizes that they supposedly won. And the sad part about this is, and I'm being very delicate about this because I know I'm talking about probably the biggest corporation in the world. Facebook is doing very little about it. Right. When your account is hacked, I've heard from an endless number of people who reach out to Facebook and they get no response. We have reached out to Facebook numerous times. We, as a media company at my television station, we are not getting any response. But this is an absolute epidemic. How does it happen? Most of the time it happens because you click on something within Facebook that you shouldn't have. You can look at an ad, or somebody may claim to send you a funny video, what have you. And then the next thing you know, the hacker is inside your machine. They get your account, and then they change the password. And once they change the password, it's like I changed the locks on your house.
Yeah.
You can't get back in your own house.
I noticed that many of the scammers on Facebook will ask you a series of questions, all aimed at getting a lot of personal and financial information about you, correct?
Well, you know what they do? They ask you questions about what are your preferences, like what kind of car do you drive? Many of us have passwords that are related to our dog's name or our history, or I see so many people use passwords with their birth date in it. You cannot do that because it's easy for them to hack, but they send out various messages. They will send out ads that want to show up in your feed. You know, an ad for a product that you might be interested in. You click on that and you don't know what's going to happen. And I do have people who call me and go, Brian, really, what does happen? I don't know. I don't know. They can set up those links, those malware links, to do whatever they want and get into your machine.
All right, let's turn to something that affects seniors probably more than other age groups, and that's Medicare scam calls.
Terry, you and I have talked about this repeatedly in the past, and you know what? I think I'll talk about this till the day that I retire from doing this. But we continue to get a consistent stream of people who are concerned about these Medicare contacts. And, you know, I understand it because Medicare is vitally important to so many millions of Pennsylvanians and Americans. But the bottom line is simply this: Medicare does not call you. And that's what happens here. These scams, they'll get a phone call saying they're from Medicare. We just wanted to make sure you had your new card, or they'll just say that there's something wrong with a charge that's been made to your account. And it does put the fear into senior citizens who, again, Medicare rely on this so heavily. But I want to keep emphasizing that message to your viewers out there, is that Medicare simply does not call you. If Medicare wants to reach you, They know your address.
Right.
They will send you a letter because they're also trying to help keep the U.S. Postal Service in business.
All
to
right,
be funny.
one more before I let you go. Remote access scam.
These are the pop-up messages that appear on your computer saying, we've detected a problem with your computer. Please call us at this phone number. And the next thing you know, when you're talking to that person who's pretending to be a computer repair technician, they've talked their way into your machine. They are now operating your machine and taking it over and possibly hacking everything you have in there.
Yeah. I'll tell you, as I said before, they are absolutely ingenious, and I'm delighted that we have someone like you regularly on television talking about these scams and how to avoid getting scammed. That's good. I never thought I'd use that expression, how to avoid getting scammed.
Yeah. Happy to help out.
Thank you. All right, preparing for the upcoming holidays, how to avoid holiday debt. We'll get to that in a few moments.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by
Cross State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Well, as I indicated earlier, we're getting into the holiday season, and there's debt that often gets incurred, and we're going to check with some real experts how to avoid what I'm referring to as the holiday debt. First of all, let me start with George Rudolph. He's the president and CEO of PSECU, and Patrick Conway. He's the president and CEO of Cross State Credit Union Association. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. Avoiding holiday debt. You get the start.
Well, sure. Thanks, Terry, and it's good to be back on the program. Thanks for having us. You know, holiday debt is a growing issue. You know, as we enter the holiday season, it's certainly a timely subject. Families are spending on gifts. They're traveling to see one another, in developing a budget and avoiding debt.
Right.
Planning for your holiday spending is very important.
Yeah, that's right. And there's, and it all is a question of planning, right? And not let yourself get into the deals that get offered, one deal after another when you go into stores to shop.
Yeah, so there's certainly some things you can do in the moment, as you mentioned, making sure that that you are being wise and you're not buying things that you don't need or buying things just because they're on sale or because you get free shipping, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But the planning, I think, is the most important part. And so to the extent that you can, I know it's getting late in the year, putting some money aside along the way in a special account. And I know most financial institutions, and I know credit unions offer separate accounts that you can save a little bit each month. And if you think about it, if you can only put even $20 a week in that, you'd have $1,000.
Yeah, let me pursue that. I mean, basically what you're indicating should be done is that you take the amount of money that you want to spend, and that's it. And you find a way to use that money, but to use it wisely, knowing the full range of circumstances that occur when, you know, you're spending money. But then there's always things that crop up. I mean, there's always something that you didn't plan for, right?
Yeah, so thinking about that ahead of the holidays is always a good thing. And so while we think of budget for gifts and things of that nature, you should also think about travel expenses and office parties and those types of things as well, because those do add up. Tipping for services that you use all year long. So make sure that's part of your budget as well.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that there's so many different ways to get caught up in the debt. It's not like there's one simple way. There's also sort of emergency situations that you didn't plan for that come up, which means that you got to shell out money to provide some kind of service to somebody or purchase something you didn't plan, correct?
Correct. And as George said, I think it's wise to set some money aside leading up into the holiday season. because you're always going to have those unanticipated expenses, and it happens to all of us. But if you can set aside a little bit of money and you can plan, your gift exchanges and your holiday travel expenses and other things that you're going to be enjoying during the holiday season, it will help give you that cushion. So if you have unexpected expenses, you're still able to make those holiday investments.
Yeah, and so basically what you're arguing is that people should set aside money into an account and use that money segmented out so that you can utilize that money and that you don't have to draw from other resources. Translation, borrow money or use credit cards and go well beyond what you plan to use the credit card for.
And don't get me wrong, right? So credit cards are great things, but what we want to do is make sure that we use them responsibly. So when you think about credit, revolving credit, it really is about short-term gaps that you might have. So what makes more sense is to make sure that you're saving a little bit.
And one of the recommendations that you make is to have you call it, make a gift-giving list. Does that really work, a list?
Yeah, a budget. Make a list, make a budget before you get into the holiday season. Be intentional about what you're doing, and you'll have a better outcome when you get into January.
Yeah.
And, the bills start coming in.
I had to ask the question, gentlemen. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about don't become a victim of fraud. Coming up.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
All right, we're talking about holiday debt. It's coming, and how to avoid it, and how to make the most of your purchases. And we're going to chat about don't become a fraud victim. But first, let's continue this discussion of credit cards, making the most of your credit card. I mean, I bring this up in that way only because what is it that most of us do when we make purchases? You use your credit cards, right? Go ahead.
So make sure you have the right credit card for your particular situation. So if you're going to have to hang on to those balances and pay them off over a little bit of a longer period of time that you've accrued during the holidays, you probably want to consider a low-rate credit card, right? So a lot of financial institutions, including and especially credit unions, offer some really great low-rate no-frills type cards. They don't have rewards and things of that nature, but you want to keep that interest expense down. That's a great way to do that. Conversely, if you're able to pay that off pretty quickly, you anticipate you can take care of that, January, February, it might be in your best interest to have a rewards card. So think a little bit about, what type of rewards would make sense for you so that you can get something back on that. So I think there's a lot of great options in the marketplace.
So you would suggest using a reward card to make these purchases?
Yeah. Again, it depends on your situation. If you're going to have to hang on to that debt well into the year, you might want to think about a non-rewards card that has a lower interest rate.
Good point.
And debit cards are a great alternative as well. So a lot of debit cards offer rewards for their use as well.
Yeah, and this is emerging as one of the major problems with debt, correct?
Well, I think, credit and debit cards are a useful tool, and most of us put our purchases on credit cards. But as George indicated, if you're planning to pay that off, you may want to look at one type of card if you're going to carry. More people are carrying their balance during the holiday season than ever before. So if that's the case, you may want to look at a different card. So I think credit cards are a good tool that can be helpful to consumers. And they don't necessarily lead to more debt. You just have to manage how you're investing in gifts and expenses during the holiday season.
Yeah, again, to cover gaps, use your credit responsibly to cover gaps in income, something that you may not be able to afford just at the moment, but that you can shortly after. But if you can't afford it ever, you probably shouldn't be buying it on a credit card.
Shouldn't be buying. Yeah, wow. All right, well, one other important topic is do not become a victim of fraud.
Yeah, good point. So we're talking about how to make the most of your money, right? How to stay out of debt, how to save a little bit. And one of the things that's going on is there are a lot of very sophisticated fraud scams going on, and those are oftentimes in the form of an employment opportunity, where you have to put money up front and then they offer you an employment, or they offer you a job, and it never comes about,
Never
right?
comes, yeah.
Romance type scams, things of that nature. So we'd ask everyone to think very carefully about those things, because we talk about holiday debt, but we don't want to see people lose, in some cases, very large sums of money in their entire life savings. So
Yeah.
if it seems too good to be true, Terry, it probably is too good to be true. And if there's ever a question in your mind about whether or not something seems legitimate, hang up the phone or go to the website and check it out for yourself, please.
Well,
it's
we
so
just,
important.
Brian Roach, a consumer investigator, was just on before you, and talking specifically about these scams that take your money. And so, holiday debt, while it could be legitimate, is still a big concern. And one of the things it seems to me is that in addition to what you're purchasing, you have to have an accounting of your regular expenses. You need to cover your regular expenses and understand if you get yourself in debt, you may not be able to pay the mortgage. You might not be able to, pay other debts that you have on a regular basis, correct?
That's a great point, Terry. So, you're going to have your set expenses that you typically have during the holiday season. And we talked about unanticipated expenses earlier on top of that, which is why a plan for holiday spending, we all spend a little bit more during the holiday season, not just gifts and travel, but other things, that come with the holiday season. So having a plan and knowing what your current expenses are going to be is going to be an important factor.
Yeah, and don't buy it, don't do it if it's beyond your budget.
Yeah, for sure. So I think a reasonable budget, and one that includes all of your regular expenses, is definitely the way to go. So, I said it earlier, I'll say it again, a plan and a budget is a better chance for you to have a successful outcome.
Yeah.
Be intentional about your spending.
And all of this is not easy. You also need a timeline in which to do these purchases. I mean, there's so many aspects to this, and what to keep straight and what to keep moving is not easy.
Yeah, and it's particularly difficult this year, right, because of the inflationary pressures that we've all experienced. So things have been more expensive all year.
Look, I want to thank you. This is a very, very important update. All right, we will see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, you stay well. And I'll add free from debt.